Good morning. We are fortunate today to be joined by our elected officials. We will start off with Board of County Commissioners Chair Heather Buck, followed by Mayor Venice, and finally Mayor Lundberg. So now we will hear from Board Chair Heather Buck.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Heather Buck, Chair of the Lane County Board of Commissioners. While we have taken steps locally to help small businesses, we know that the federal government's ability to stretch far beyond ours to provide financial assistance is going to be really crucial. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, that was passed by Congress, is intended to provide immediate help to business owners. There are 4 primary elements to the CARES Act that can help local businesses. First is the Paycheck Protection Act, or Paycheck Protection Program. That is a small business administration loan that can help businesses with fewer than 500 employees, as well as nonprofits, keep their workforces employed during this crisis. The second is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that can provide up to $2 million per loan for necessary working capital. A grant loan advance will provide up to $10,000 of economic relief to businesses that are currently experiencing temporary difficulties. The third element of the CARES Act, called the Employee Retention Tax Credit, provides a refundable payroll tax credit for 50% of wages paid by eligible employers to certain employees during the COVID-19 crisis. The credit is available to employers, including nonprofits, whose operations have been fully or partially suspended as a result of the government order limiting commerce, travel, or other meetings. The fourth and final element I'd like to share with you today is the Small Business Debt Relief Program that provides immediate relief to small businesses with non-disaster Small Business Administration loans. As our federal partners continue to provide clarification and direction to local lenders and banks, please know that they are working hard to get businesses the resources that they need and to serve their customers well. The demand and need is overwhelming, not only here in Lane County, but really across our country. And our financial institutions are in high demand in all corners. Along with the overwhelming need, we know that businesses in Lane County need a consistent and accessible way to learn about their options. To that end, Lane County has been working very closely with Eugene and Springfield to provide better information to all of our local businesses. And I'll let Mayor Lundberg and Mayor Venice speak to those efforts in a few minutes. Another important group to our community is our renters. Despite the statewide moratorium on evictions for non-payment of rent due to the efforts of the COVID crisis, we are still hearing about attempted evictions for non-payment of rent. Until June 30th, 2020, it's illegal for landlords to give you a termination notice or file for eviction because of non-payment of rent or without cause. Rent is still due after June 30th. We know that this is an extremely difficult time for both our renters and landlords. For the majority of landlords, they understand the need for a moratorium, and they really have no wish to continue to increase the rise of homelessness on our streets. They want to keep their good tenants. There are no easy answers. Lane County has partnered with the cities of Eugene and Springfield to create online resources to help renters and landlords better understand the moratorium, including sample letters from our partners from Legal Aid. Visit lanecounty.or.gov/coronavirus to view the resources. We have a new separate tab on the page for those landlord-tenant resources. Thank you, and I'll introduce now Mayor Lucy Venice.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. Thank you all for tuning in to this press conference. We know our collective efforts to stay home and save lives over the past several weeks are helping to flatten the curve and protect our vital healthcare system. While we celebrate our successes and honor the sacrifices that community members have made in this time, I encourage all Eugenians to continue to stay the course. Please continue to only go out to meet essential needs. Each of us must do our part to keep the community healthy. Community health also means a vibrant economy. This is a tough time for many who have lost jobs, have children at home, and aren't sure how to make ends meet this month. We've heard from our business community that there is a lot of information out there from federal, state, and local entities, and it can certainly feel overwhelming. In response, the cities and county have partnered as a region to provide clarity on critical business resources and how to access them. Whether you are a business in Lane County, Eugene, or Springfield, we are working together to help make sure you get the clarity and direction you need to access the resources you need most. On a final note, I want to re-emphasize the need to maintain physical distancing, especially now that we are having some sunny weather. We take pride in our parks, but we must keep space in our parks and open spaces. Enjoy outdoor areas near your home with people who live in your household. Do not use playground equipment or skate park facilities. Solo walking, biking, and running are all great ways to enjoy this sunny weather. Do not participate in group activities or visit crowded parks. If you come across other people, maintain 6 feet of distance. More than 14,000 people in the U.S. have died from COVID-19, including one person from our own community. The actions we take now help protect lives in our community over the coming weeks. We are all in this together, and I thank you for your perseverance. Stay safe. And now I will turn the podium over to my colleague, Mayor Christine Lundberg.
Thank you, Mayor Venice and Commissioner Buck. Meeting the needs of our business community is essential to our response and recovery. We continue to fine-tune how we are providing business owners and workers with the information and resources they need. Later today, the City of Springfield, in partnership with the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, Discover Downtown Springfield, Lane Workforce Partnership, and Latino Professionals Connect, will provide access to a panel discussion between local business resource experts.
This panel discussion is a resource for all Latinx business owners and workers. Our experts will share insights, tools, and resources for our Spanish-speaking small business community who are working to access relief and develop strategies for maintaining operations during this time. This panel discussion will be facilitated entirely in Spanish, with a focus on the topics of concern we are hearing from our local Latinx small business community. Examples of topics include the different resources available to businesses, federal relief programs and strategies, and answers to questions around unemployment and unemployment insurance. We would not be the diverse and vibrant community we are without our Latino community members, leaders, businesses, and workers. We are seeing how significantly they are impacted by both health numbers and economic numbers. We are here to help. Look for the COVID-19 resources and small business information session to be promoted later this afternoon on partner websites and through social media. Thank you. Now I will welcome Jason Davis, Lane County Public Health Information Officer.
Thank you, Mayor Lundberg, and thank you to all of our elected officials for your encouragement, especially on the public health issue that I heard mentioned multiple times, really urging folks to stay at home and observe those physical distancing guidelines. I'd like to start off with the case count for the day. We are currently at 35 cases after having identified one new case since yesterday, with over 1,200 tests coming from Lane County to regional labs. We have 5 individuals who remain hospitalized. We have 8 individuals who have recovered, with 21 individuals still at home and sick. And of course, we still only have 1 casualty. Our new case is a male in his 50s from the Eugene Springfield area. The good news is he is doing well, medically stable, and at home. So I'd like to share going into the weekend what the priorities for the emergency operations are. As you know, we work 7 days a week on the emergency response to COVID, and so going into the weekend there will be a couple days where you don't hear from us quite as much, and I'd like to share kind of what our priorities are and what we'll be working on. In addition to the pieces that are really critical around helping our at-risk populations, especially with individuals who are unhoused, and other congregate living settings, and making sure that we keep those areas case-free. We're also really looking at complacency, understanding and recognizing that with the weather and with life to some extent needing to go on, that people are starting to become somewhat anxious to get back to life as usual. And really, I want to echo our elected officials' urge for folks to resist that complacency, resist that urge to go back to normal. We are currently not at that spot. After having talked to not only our health officer, but experts from around the state and the country, the consensus really is it is far too early for us to take that step, that really where we're at and the fortunate position that we've enjoyed with so few cases and so few deaths here in Lane County is a direct result of the efforts that you all have been so diligent on making. And it is absolutely imperative that we continue that piece of staying at home, staying safe, and physically distancing wherever possible. We'd also like to go ahead and acknowledge the fact that when we're talking about utilizing our outdoor spaces and still, acknowledging the fact that people do need to get outdoors. You do need to get outdoors several times a day, take a walk your dog, get some fresh air, that you do so close to your home. It is really tempting to try to go and find the place with the best view or to go to your favorite park. And really what we're urging folks to do is recognize that there's an equity piece to that. Not everybody can drive to go to an outdoor space or travel to go to an outdoor space. And when you do that, you really infringe upon the people that live immediately adjacent to that outdoor space that you're using. So please be courteous and understand that, really most people in Lane County have access to an outdoor space, a park, a field, et cetera, within close distance to their home, and please try and use those spaces. We're also going to be working hard on going back and establishing epidemiological links or case links between our cases. That helps us understand how the disease has moved through our county. And that really helps us go back to really understanding when it came here and to what extent it has moved through the county, and then also probably the more pertinent piece of information, where it's going next and how it will affect us. This will help us understand a better picture of how long our plateau will last and what other measures are needed to make sure that we continue to reduce the spread of COVID-19. To that end, we are obviously not at the place that we'd like to be with testing numbers or having the data available to us to have that really in-depth picture of what's going on. So we've decided to compile numbers with some of our neighboring counties. That'll help us understand not only what's happening in Lane County, but with areas that have geographic similarities and demographic similarities, what's happening there, comparing and contrasting, and being able to get a better, clearer picture of what's happening here and then what we can expect. One of the pieces that we're especially interested in is creating a visual that helps us understand how many of our cases are travel related. So how much disease has been brought in from other areas compared to how much spread of disease has actually happened here. And one interesting point of data that's come out in looking at that is really the average number of contacts that each of our cases have had. So typically on an infectious disease like measles or any number of different diseases that we do these case investigations on, we'll identify 8, 9, 10, sometimes as much as 20 or 30 public contacts that people have in the course of when they were contagious. What we're noticing with the COVID cases is they're far fewer, between 2 and 5 contacts per case. So that's really encouraging, and we believe really points back to the governor's orders and the physical distancing that we've seen happening in our area. And also helps us understand how important remaining vigilant on the physical distancing piece is. By lowering those points of contact, overall we lower the spread. Finally, I'd like to just point out the fact that we do have some just very remedial data around how we stack up Lane County compared to the rest of the state. So we have roughly about 11% of the state's population. Taking that into consideration, we only have 2.5% of the state's overall COVID cases. Really, the concentration of the cases are in counties up to the north of us, and largely those counties experienced their first case earlier on, before the physical distancing and before the governor's orders really took effect. And we think that that really has a huge part in why we have that lower percentage. We have around 4.2% of the overall tests done. Now, there was a few different media pieces recently that looked at different counties and their testing numbers. And what's important to understand about those is that one of the criteria for testing is not just the symptoms that you're facing, it's also your case contact. So individuals who have had contact with a known case are prioritized for testing. So places that have more cases end up having more testing. So here in Lane County, at a testing rate of around 4.2%, we really do have a smaller percentage of tests, but that then is correlated with our overall number of cases. Also, I'd just like to show really quickly the epi curve of some of our neighboring counties and then Lane County. So Lane County is down here in the dark blue. This graph was actually pulled when we had 33 cases. But you can see up here Washington County, Marion County, Clackamas County, and the way that their curves really did have some exponential increase, whereas us and a few other of our neighboring counties have enjoyed a relatively flat curve. We're going to be making this data available to you publicly through our website, so you can also track that. And we're really doing that across the board on a few other different measures, helping to try to paint a picture of this disease for our public and let you in on as much data as we possibly can. With that, I will take any questions from the media.
First question is, are you worried that some churches might try to hold services on Easter Sunday?
And who asked that question?
KZI.
So a question from KZI, are you worried that some churches will hold services over the Easter weekend or Passover time. So obviously that is a concern of ours, understanding the importance that this time of year has for many people. However, I think what we've seen is that people have, church congregations and other faith institutions have really taken great measures to try and provide that worship piece through a distance, through digital media, and being able to communicate to their parishioners without having to have that physical contact. So I think we're confident that the churches and the faith organizations in our community are really doing all they can to try to go through this important time of the year with the tools that we have available and maintain that physical distancing. We will certainly be doubling down on our communications efforts. We've had a great line in with our faith organizations. And so we continue that communication, and we will look out for any organizations that are planning on having physical services. So far, I don't think we've identified any major concerns.
The next couple of questions are for Commissioner Buck.
The next couple of questions will be for Commissioner Buck, and so I'm going to go ahead and let her take those after I cleanse the podium.
Thank you. So we've had a couple of questions regarding evictions, one of which was how many evictions have we heard about since the moratorium went into effect? At the Board of County Commissioners, we've heard it through public comment and individually. I've conferred with both the mayors, and the same has been happening for them as well. So it is indeed an issue, especially an issue in our Latinx community who may not be able to access the same resources that other renters may be able to do. So the resources that are available right now are the Eugene City Rental Housing Code Division, where they can call. And there's the Eugene Springfield Tenant Association for the greater metro area. But for those that live outside the metro area, those resources are much more limited, which is why the county has put on the new page under the coronavirus information on our website for additional resources. The other question we received regarding evictions is what kind of tenant education is out there. And for the larger landlords, generally they're part of a larger landlord association. And there are a couple fairly large ones in the state that have been following this very closely and have come out with appropriate forms for landlords to use to be able to help accommodate renters. For the small mom and pop landlords out there, there is the Oregon Rental Housing Association, which usually has some smaller associations by region. We happen to have a region here in our community, and they are also coming out with appropriate forms for their landlords to assist with their renters. For those landlords out there that aren't necessarily associated with a particular association or landlord association, the resources out there that they can access are limited unless they hear about it here through these media briefings, whether it's printed in print media as well regarding the requirements that they're under in this moratorium. So it's really informational for them to be able to plug in here that there are associations with appropriate forms that they could get in the interim. I would strongly encourage them to do so. And with that, I think there's a question for Mayor Venice, and I'll wipe the podium for her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Venice. The question is, what have you heard from small businesses who are struggling?
What have I heard from small businesses who are struggling? Primarily, I have heard frustration and anxiety around the small business relief coming from the federal government, the Paycheck Protection Program. The application process has been confusing, it's been delayed, it feels inconsistent, and so that has raised a high level of anxiety among small business people who are really very much in need of that support. So again, I would direct people to go to the City of Eugene's website. Our COVID-19 website, coronavirus website, has a special section for businesses, and you can look for the latest information there. We did have a joint call, a number of businesses with Congressman DeFazio yesterday, at which they were able to talk about their concerns about that process, and so I know he is trying to press for better facilitation of the paperwork and the application and the review process.
Excellent, thank you. The next question is from the Register Guard. What will the cities be doing to enforce staying home or keeping social distances this weekend, especially with the nice weather? And should people expect penalties?
The question is, what will the city be doing in order to ensure that people stay home, especially in the nice weather, and would we impose penalties? And we're all in this together, and we are looking to all of you as members of the public to recognize that this is your responsibility. People will often ask me as mayor, how can I be helpful? This is the one thing that you really must remember to do. This is how you're helpful, to make sure that you and your family really are respecting this rule to stay home and stay away from gatherings. I know it's going to be tempting, but this is a moment to really be cautious. If we had to go farther, we would, but that is really not our goal. Our goal is that as a community, we are keeping each other safe, and we ask all of you to respect that.
Thank you, Mayor Venice. The same question was posed for Mayor Lundberg as well.
Let me just prepare the podium for you, Mayor.
So what I want to do first is thank all of the Springfield citizens who have been following the rules. I have my mask today, and so I know that everyone, this is a hardship for us all to do this, but we have been working together so far, and I'll use a little comparator. My foot is broken, and I'm in a boot. And as much as I want to not put that boot on every day, I know that I'll get out of it sooner rather than later if I get up every day and put that boot on. So it's the same with the virus. As long as we stick to the plan, which is to maintain our distances, and this weekend will be a critical one to do that, is we will get through this sooner rather than later. So first I want to thank everyone. Second, please follow the rules. We are working on education, social distancing, wear a mask, all of the things that you've been told, wash your hands, and only as a last resort would we look to any kind of an enforcement action. But this is beautiful weather this weekend. Please enjoy it, but please enjoy it in a responsible manner. So, thank you.
I understand there's a few more questions, public health related questions.
Next one is, has criteria for testing changed at all, and what is it? And that is from KLCC.
So Rachel from KLCC would like to know whether or not testing criteria has changed. And so what we've seen is a generic sort of testing has remained the same, but the criteria from individual private labs has changed, and really that is information that your local provider has, and it still remains, the situation remains the same. So the reagents, the chemicals needed to process the test remain in shortage. The state, for instance, just received the rapid testing machines that we actually can have physically located in various points of contact. However, we still see shortage of the chemicals needed to process the test in the machines. So you know, without that situation changing, you're not going to see a lot of movement on the guidelines themselves. And so that has largely remained static.
Next question, also from Rachel at KLCC. What resources are available for Latino community members regarding evictions?
So another question from Rachel at KLCC. What resources are available for people in the Latin American community around evictions? And so we actually were talking with Centro Latino Americano last few days about that very subject. And fortunately, our partners at Legal Aid, which I believe Commissioner Buck mentioned, are also extending their services and making sure that they have bilingual people to take those complaints and calls. So as individuals, if they experience any sort of discrepancy from the governor's orders around the moratorium on evictions, if individuals who predominantly speak Spanish experience that, they can call Legal Aid, and we can get that number out to Rachel at KLCC. They can call them and make an appointment and discuss their situation and find out whether or not Legal Aid can be of assistance. Certainly that is an area that is of concern for us as, you know, individuals who maybe aren't completely aware of the entire situation because those resources haven't been made available in a robust way in Spanish, could potentially slip between the cracks. So that's definitely been a focus for us, and trying to make sure that we have a broad knowledge base on what the moratorium means and then what individual renter rights are.
That's it for the questions.
And that's all we have. Thank you.